Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
I'm going to use a small flat pry bar. Just get underneath here. I'm going to also use a small flat bladed screwdriver. Pry the wheel cover off. Usually on there pretty tight. We'll use the long breaker bar and a 21mm socket. We're going to loosen all the lug nuts with the vehicle on the ground so the wheel doesn't spin. Now you can raise and support your vehicle. You can use a jack and jack stands, but we're going to use our 2-post lift. With the lug nuts loose, I'm going to finish up using the socket and remove the wheel and tire. Before you remove the brake caliper and brake pads, make sure you disconnect the negative battery terminal. There is an electric brake controller that if the door is opened, the driver's door, or even if you accidentally touch the brake pedal, it will activate the braking system, and potentially you could have the piston come out of the caliper if you've got this disconnected. So you just want to make sure that the negative terminal of the 12-volt battery is disconnected and put aside before you touch the brake system. I'm going to turn it this way just so we can see better what's going on, so I can get to these caliper bolts. There's 14mm slide bolts on the bottom and the top. I'll start by loosening these. Loosen the top one. I'm using a 14mm box wrench. I'm going to have a bungee cord handy, and I'll wrap it up and around the coil spring and the strut. And this way, when I take the caliper off, I'm just going to slide it off. I can tie it up, and then we don't want to let it hang by the rubber brake hose. You can damage the brake hose. Just hook it this way and this way, and that can hang just right there like that. These brakes are actually in really good shape, but we're going to show you how to change them anyways. You just push them away out of the caliper clips. You take the pads out. I'm going to remove the bottom and top caliper mounting bolts. They're 17mm. I'm just using a deep socket. It acts like a short extension, and a long ratchet. Let's get them loose. So I have the bolts loose. I can just throw them out by hand. I'm going to hold on to the rotor because it is loose. This one is not stuck to the hub. I don't want it to fall. So I'm also going to hold on to the rotor and the caliper bracket and take it off. And then since the rotor is so loose and it's pretty small, I'm going to take it off too. If it was stuck in place, rusted in place, you could spray some rust penetrant there, and there's threaded holes you can mount bolts through and push them off. You can reuse the clips. They're stainless. You just need to clean them. You can use some brake parts cleaner. Spray it on there, and a wire brush. Just brush out all the dirt and grease. Do this on both sides, and then when you're done brushing them, use a rag to finish cleaning them. All right. Well, you've got your caliper bracket off. You can check your slide pins to make sure they're moving freely. They should move in and out fairly freely. This one's a little tight, so I'm going to pull it out and just carefully pull the boot off. It's a little rusty and dirty. So I'll take a rag, wipe it down. Just gonna clean this out. Take a little bit of brake parts cleaner. Spray it in there. Careful spraying it. You want to spray it away from you so you don't spray yourself in the face with this stuff. And do these one at a time so you don't mix them up. Sometimes there's different ones top and bottom. We'll take our caliper slide grease. Grease these up, reinstall it. Push it in so the rubber boot goes over it. Moves in and out nice and freely. Check the other one. What's in there? Pretty tight. You just repeat this for both sides. So we are going to reuse our rotor and pads because they are in good shape. They're basically brand new on this particular vehicle. Didn't make much sense to replace them. However, if you do need replacement parts for your brakes, you can go to oneauto.com. But we're going to show you how to reinstall these as if they were brand new, because the procedure will be exactly the same. So I like to put them on backwards first. New brake rotors come packaged with a protective oil coating to prevent rust. That needs to be cleaned off. Plus I've been touching these with my greasy gloves, so I do want to clean the surface where the brake pads are going to touch. We use some brake parts cleaner. And then just wipe them down. Flip them back over, reinstall them the correct way. They actually fit kind of loosely, so you can take a lug nut and thread it on. And this will hold the rotor in place, it won't fall on the ground, and you won't be fighting with it to try to reinstall the brake caliper. But we're also going to clean this surface too with brake parts cleaner. These have a little bit of light surface rust because they are the original ones, but they are working just fine, so that's why we're reusing them. So normally if you're replacing these brakes, they're going to be worn out, and as the brake pad wears, this piston will move out of the caliper and take up the extra space as the brake pad wears in. So these brake pads are basically brand new. So the caliper the piston was not pushed out of the caliper very far. However, if it was, say like that far out, you'd need to compress it in order to install the new brake pads. So what you can do, you take the old brake pad. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to damage this brake pad, but you could put it right up against the piston like this, and then take a C-clamp and then gently compress it. And at the very end, when you're done compressing it, it's going to look just like that, and you'll be ready to install this caliper over your new thicker brand new brake pads. You can reinstall the brake caliper bracket. So slide it into place over the rotor. I've got the bolts handy, ready to go. You may have to move the caliper bracket around to get them threaded in. So I've got that top one started. I'll get the bottom one started. Thread it down as far as it will go. I'll snug these up, and then I'll torque them. I'm going to torque the caliper mounting bolts to 101 foot-pounds. Just make sure your brake pad surface is nice and clean, free of dirt and grease. You can take some brake parts cleaner, just quickly spray them off. You don't want to soak the pads. You don't have to douse these with grease, just take a little bit of caliper grease, put it on the ears of the pads so that they slide on the clips. So these will mount with the wider part of the curve, matching the outer part of the rotor. You don't want to install them backwards. And they'll just slide into place in the clips right up against the rotor. Repeat that for both of them. Again, just be aware they don't install this way, they install with the curve towards the outside. So we can take our bungee cord and unhook it from the caliper with that looped all the way through. Don't forget to unhook your bungee cord from your strut. Slide the caliper over the pads. Have to push these slide pins in a little bit. Reinstall the slide bolts. Same for both of them. And I'll torque them. I'm going to torque the caliper slide pin bolts to 25 foot-pounds. If the slide pin bolts spin, you'll have to counter hold them here with an 18mm wrench. We got lucky, those didn't want to spin. Once it clicks, you're all set. You can remove your lug nut. Push the whole assembly straight ahead and reinstall your wheel and tire and reconnect your battery. Take our wheel and tire and reinstall it. Start our lug nuts by hand. You don't want to cross thread them. Use the socket just to snug these up, put the vehicle on the ground, and then we'll torque them. I'm going to torque the lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds in a cross pattern using our torque wrench. When it clicks, you're all set. Reinstall the wheel cover. I line up the hole for the valve stem right here, and then it'll just push into place. Since we compress the pistons back into the calipers, we need to gently pump the brakes to bring them out to meet the pads. You don't have to slam them to the floor, just gently pump them up. That should be good.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.